Imagine at 9 a.m., you're about to tell your team that the company is pivoting, that some of them won't be here tomorrow. Your instinct? Hide behind a script. Use words like right sizing or synergies. If you spin the truth, you won't lose those who leave. You lose those who stay. Today, I'll show you the real protocol. How to live through the hardest day with your integrity intact. To begin with, the first instinct in a crisis is to manage the narrative. You want to make the bad news sound not so bad. So you say, we are streamlining operation to optimize efficiency. The translation, you were fired. Consequently, when you use euphemism, you trigger the brain's threat detection system. And people know you were lying, and their anxiety skyrocket. So step one of the real protocol is reality statement. If you have a bad news, put the headline first. Research shows that when people are anxious, their ability to process complex information drops by 80%. Thus, if you ramble for 10 minutes about market condition before you drop the axe, you are torturing them. Now you have to respect them enough to be blunt. For example, you must strip away the corporate jargon. Don't say departing, say laid off. Don't say transitioning, say closing the division. It sounds harsh, but clarity is the highest form of kindness in a crisis. This approach is backed by the famous Toyota Australia case study. When Toyota had to close its manufacturing plant in Altona, they didn't hide it. They announced the closure 4 years in advance. They were radically transparent about the reality. The result? Productivity actually went up during the closure period because the workers trusted the leadership to tell them the truth. Consider a real-life scenario. A cowardly leader using corporate speak might say, due to the macroeconomic headwinds, we are exploring strategic alternatives for the marketing function. As a result, the team is confused, wondering if they still have a job. Conversely, a real leader says, I have difficult news. We're closing the marketing department effective immediately. This means 12 of you are being laid off today. I want to be clear about why this is happening. While the team is devastated, they are not confused. Ultimately, you cannot manage change if people don't understand what is changing. Before we move on, what is the worst corporate buzzword you have ever heard that is used to cover up bad news? Right sizing, uncoupling, share the worst ones in the comments below. Stay with me because what you do next will define how your team remembers you. Once you have stated the reality and the shockwave has hit, you now have two groups of people to manage, the ones leaving and the ones staying. Most leaders focus only on the legalities of the exit, but they forget the emotion of the survivors. So we need step 2, the empathy for the survivors. There is a specific psychological condition called layoff survivor sickness. The people who keep their jobs don't feel lucky. Instead, they feel guilt and fear. They think, why them, not me? Am I next? If you expect them to go back to business as usual on Monday, you are delusional. In fact, productivity typically drops 20% after a layoff. Furthermore, research by Joel Brockner at Columbia Business School identified that the survivors react based on how they saw their colleagues being treated. If the exit was cold and brutal, the survivor will disengage because the psychological contract or expectation has been violated. You must publicly validate their pain. For instance, a robotic leader might say,
okay, now that the changes are made, let's focus on the fourth quarter targets. Back to work.
Now the result is that the team hates you. On the other hand, the real leader says, I know today is heavy. You are losing friends and colleagues. It is okay to feel angry or sad about that. I don't expect business as usual this week. I want to make space for us to process this. Now, by doing this, you are giving them permission to be human. Have you ever survived a layoff? Did you feel relieved or did you feel guilty? Be honest in the comment section. Now let's pause here. If you are an executive watching this, you might be preparing for a merger or an acquisition, or a reduction in force. These are the moments that define your legacy. Unfortunately, most companies handle this legally correctly, but culturally disastrously. They bring in lawyers, but they forget the leaders. I help executive teams structure their change communication. We train the managers on the survivor conversations, and we rebuild the trust after the dust settles. If you are facing a storm, do not go in alone. Click the link below to apply for executive fluency training. Now let's navigate the change together. Now, don't miss the last step because what you do after matters more than what you said. Moving forward, you have stated the reality and empathize with the pain. Now you must lead them out of the valley. Step 3 is action and leadership. This is where most leaders hide. They lock themselves in their office because they are exhausted or ashamed. However, you must be visible. In the absence of information, people create conspiracy theories. If you go silent for 3 days after a layoff, your team will reinvent rumors that are 10 times worse than the truth. Leadership during change is not about having all the answers. It's about frequency. You need to over-communicate. To support this, Donald Sull at MIT Sloan Management Review studied leadership during crisis. He found that speed and honest feedback loops are critical. You cannot just announce the change and then disappear. You need to provide a timeline of stability. Say, here is what happens this week. By doing this, you give the brain a new pattern to latch onto. For example, a hiding leader might send an email saying, "My door is always open," but then close the door and cancel meetings. In contrast, the real leader says, "I know you have questions about the new structure. I don't have all the answers yet, but here is the action plan. Town hall tomorrow at 10 a.m., one-on-ones with every survivor by Friday, updated strategy deck by Monday, and I will be walking the floor all day. Stop me and ask me anything." Ultimately, action kills anxiety. Give them a plan. In a crisis, do you want a leader who is optimistic or realistic? Type optimistic or realist below. In conclusion, with real protocol, reality, empathy, action, and leadership won't make the bad news good, but it will make the bad news bearable. It preserves the dignity of the people leaving and the trust of the people staying. But here is the catch. You can't deliver the perfect town hall speech. You can use the perfect words, but the conversation isn't over when the meeting ends. The real test of trust happens in the follow-up. Most leaders make promises in the crisis meeting that they forget 2 weeks later. And that is when the culture truly dies. Now I'm giving you the bonus series finale. Episode 13, we are going to talk about the final step. We will explore why the follow-up is actually the most important conversation of all. We are bringing everything. Balik, GPS, car, rev, repair, dial, AMP, kind, and the real together into one final masterclass. You do not want to miss the conclusion. Click here to finish the journey. See you in the next video.